Let's get back to Newcastle, because that's where you started, and that's where the Animals came from, and some of the things that happened in Newcastle.
Well, we had a lot of fun there, and it was hard work there, and I dug holes for a living at one time, and lots of things happened in Newcastle, and but eventually I left, and I went to London, and that's where the story really begins, in London, folks. And then I came to America, but no, wait a minute, that's where the story really begins. And now I'm in Canada, and this is where the story really begins. In fact, the story really begins everywhere. It doesn't matter where you are, really. I had some good times in Newcastle, and I learned a lot there. And a lot of songs that I wrote originally were based on experiences in Newcastle, such as one that we wrote dedicated to a club that we used to play in, a club that we started out from, and it was called the Club of Go-Go.
That's a sneaky way of getting into a record, if ever I heard one.
It's Chucky, darling.
Right.
Now, baby, found your place to go. Hangs around town at the Club of Go-Go. Takes all my money for the picture show. But I know she spends at the Club of Go-Go. That's all,
Me too, baby. Jimmy Reed and many other Negro blues singers were some of the people that influenced your life most, I think, in the early years, and probably still do.
Yeah.
Like Little Richard, perhaps?
Yeah, I went to see Little Richard last night, which was a very rewarding experience. I hadn't seen him for quite some time, and I did quite a lot of work with him in England one time. He's really a character. He's really a beautiful guy. He's too much. He's a good rock and roll artist too. He's great.
How about some of the blues things? Because you've got a voice that many people have said has been one of the, probably the only white blues voice in existence today. It's certainly a voice that filled the cave last night. You didn't need amplification to fill the cave, really.
Well, it's probably because I'm not really white, you see.
Yes, dearly beloved. Hi, baby, how's yours? Here's Eric Burdon. It seems to be funny getting out of the groove or getting back into it, or whatever you call it. The Black Plague was such a fantastic hit in Vancouver here, Eric. It seems rather a question of something that's happening socially, between the rich and the poor, although it's set in the Middle Ages. How did you actually write it? What did you mean to say?
Well, I had a dream one night, and the dream that I had was all medieval, so I thought I'd learn something from the dream and write something that was medieval, which was, even the name medieval is a very down trip. The whole thing is black and terrifying, and a lot of weird things happened then, like the bubonic plague, for instance, which killed millions and millions of people, in Europe. And I thought that if I could, I'd make a film about it. So what I did was I made a film in sound, And because it's in sound, as people listen to it with their ears, they can pick up their own graphic interpretation of whichever they want to pick up on it. For them it may be today, but for me it was yesterday, And it really doesn't matter as long as the message is there, and the message is that is in it, which is plain to say is that if anybody needs your help, you should help them out and do your best to make them feel good, if they feel bad.
How about the Gregorian chant?
This was, the chant is actually performed by my manager, Mike Jeffries, and road manager, Phil Robertson, and Danny McCulloch. So if anybody conjures up with a fantastic picture of a medieval chant, it's not really, it's just for Englishmen.
Sounds good anyway. The Animals, the Black Plague. After Winds of Change album,
the bell tolls. The Black Plague has struck, and diseased eyes roll upwards, as if knowing which direction their souls will travel.
He came to England and he picked up influences from the Stones and the Beatles and everything around him, and what you've got now is an international complexity of music, which is just being spurned out in one sound, and that's why it's so beautiful, and that's why, in a way, sometimes it's so confused and violent as well, but it's still beautiful, and that's why I love it.
That's Jimi Hendrix, and The Wind Cries Mary. 25 minutes before 8 o'clock on a Much More Music station. Peter Starr, yours truly, hello. Talking to Eric Burdon of the Animals. Put her in town this week. Seems like the whole Geordie population of British Columbia is converging on CKLG tonight, doesn't it? Telephones in one way or another.
Well, aye, lad, you've never changed,
Now say it in English.
Well, you haven't changed at all,
All right. That was Jimi Hendrix anyway. Somebody that certainly is knocking England for 6 right now. I was in Seattle the other night, so they tell me. Although we didn't get a chance to have a look. I had a question, Eric, from Susan Sheffer of 3755 West Broadway. That was at the Cave last night. And there was a few people around the table where she was sitting were saying, well, why doesn't he sing blues like he used to? Why have he changed? Why has he gone psychedelic?
I started out trying to sound like and be like an American Negro, you know, and I'm not an American Negro, so I'm trying to find myself, and I find that the more honest you try to be with yourself, sometimes it's harder for people to understand you. You know, I could have went on living the lie of trying to be an American Negro for the rest of my life and made successful records and made a lot of money at it. But money is not what I'm interested in, really, folks. Honestly, that's the truth. Really honest. Believe me, it is. Money is nothing really. It's just superficial. You know, you can live without bread.
Really?
Yeah. Well, not bread that you put in your mouth, but bread that you put in your pocket and then give to somebody for a ride on a bus.
Yeah, as long as you've got enough money to actually live the life that has to be led to create what you have to create.
Well, when I was at college, say, I lived on a grant of like £120 a year, you know, which works out at like, I don't know what.
That's $350 a year.
Right, it works out at nothing to spending money a week, you know, and I always had a good time. You know, I always had a girlfriend and I always had a bottle of wine, if you see what I mean, because I had music. Because I was given that through music. So I've never ever had a hard time really.
But sort of now, you know, you have a house in Laurel Canyon in Los Angeles, and you have a house in London in England, and you run a Stingray, and you have an.
No, it runs me.
Well, you know, you have the worldly things. Don't you feel that it's easy for people that have money to decry money than for people that don't have it?
No, because I said that when I didn't have any money. And if I didn't have any money tomorrow, believe me, I'd say the same thing. As long as I was allowed to do as long as I had freedom. But freedom is in your mind, really.
Doesn't money buy you professional freedom?
No, yourself. But you know, there are groups in California right now. There's one group who I'm a big fan of called The Spirit. And they're not rich at all. You know, they have a house in Topanga Canyon, which they all live in, and it's very hard for them to keep it and things like that. And all their money, everything they have goes into their recording, into their music. But they don't mind, really, you know. They're living on a breadline, but they don't care because it's their music that it keeps them going, really. It's just having a belief in what you're doing. And as long as you know what you're doing is right and it's good and it's going to give something, you're going to give something to other people, you'll get it back eventually. So give all you can and you'll get it back, folks.
Times 3. Thank you so much.
Times 10.
Times 10. There we go. We're getting generous tonight. That goes to an album decision. We're going to give autographs away today, dearly beloved, with albums to go with them. We sort of climb up off the floor there and come back into our little world. Are you with us?
Yeah, I've just been. There's 2 dogs just walking in the studio. They're beautiful.
Don't talk about Terry Mulligan like that. It's not right. Well, nice. Dearly beloved.